Welcome to the H12 Prep Baseball Report. I'm Ramon Scott and I'm joined by Dave Dickens of EastCountySports.com. And Dave, we brought in our baseball analyst, our first repeat guest on any of our shows, Helix senior Eric Smelko. And Eric told us about committing to St. Mary's College this past off season. And Eric, the Highlanders are off to a little bit of a slow start, but I know that Coach Holland is going to turn it around. We were the preseason #1. We're off to a 2-5 start.
Yeah.
But we're going to call them to the carpet a little bit here, Dave, and roll through all the teams of the Grossmont League and the East County teams. And I know you have some questions for Eric, and I don't want to put the pressure on him because I have some serious questions about my Highlanders. But tell us about the Highlanders start and how we're going to turn it around.
Well, I mean, it's been, I hate to beat a dead horse, but it's exactly what Coach Holland said, and it all comes down to that big knock. They need that big hit, and so far they don't have it. And for whatever reason, whatever rust that they still haven't shaken off, they have the players, they have the talent. He even had some relation into the travel ball. We won't really touch on that too much, but he's looking for, we need to get back to the team effort type of thing and get away from showcasing one or two guys, as you had mentioned before. And but we really need to focus on getting those big knocks. Other than that, they've been solid.
I believe that we've been really close. Like you said, we've gotten runners on base. We've been stealing. We just have not been able to get them in. And our pitching's holding up completely with Thomas Kennedy, Jordan Thompson, Alonzo Richardson, and Christopher Perlewski. But we just need that big kid, and we're really close to breaking through.
Dave, they're playing an elite schedule, as all the teams really in Division I do. It's quite a scenario where all these top teams just bang each other every game, every day it seems, in the preseason before we get to the league season. But we're just a week away really from getting rolling in league play. So it's going to be an incredible season, especially in the Grossmont Hills League, and I'll talk to you about that in just a moment. But you've seen these Highlanders. Dave, is there hope for my Highlanders?
I absolutely think there is, and the big heartbreaker that I saw, when I happened to be watching the Patriots facing Helix in the back of the softball field. I came to the last inning for your game, and it was an absolute heartbreaker against Vista. And there was even a couple of words I remember Coach saying, because they were doing a little heckling over there on the Vista side, and he goes, "Hey, you can't knock them. I mean, you gotta beat them. You have to beat them. You don't want to see that. You have to beat them." And you definitely echo the same thing, I'm sure, and you understand exactly what Coach Holland is preaching.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Coach Holland has dead on. Whenever we have people walking on our mound like Eastlake does, but Eastlake's a great team, and whenever we lose at home, they can do that. They beat us, and I believe he hit it right on the head right there. And it's tough. It's tough saying it, but you can't say anything because they outplayed you for 7 innings, 21 outs, and I believe that's what he's been preaching at practices. Play 21 outs. It's not over until it's over.
And that was one of those games that you were expected to win, too. You were expected to be a team like Vista. I mean, you've got the overall talent, offensively, defensively. You just have too much talent to be losing to a team like that.
Yeah, and I think we expect to win every game with the talent that we have, even over Eastlake, and even over Torrey Pines, La Costa Canyon, which we're playing soon. We believe that we can beat everybody. And like I said, we're really close to breaking through, and we just need that one moment to happen.
And how about turning it around? Wouldn't it be nice to turn it around? No offense, Coach Abruzzo, but wouldn't it be nice to turn it around against the Hillers?
Oh, we know we're getting Jack Hyde, and that his stuff is just absolutely, it's ridiculous what kind of stuff he has, and it's going to be a tough game, especially with how hot they're playing. And Coach Abruzzo has done a great job, but I think Coach Holland's prepared us, and I think we're going to be ready.
And if my dad were here right now, I'll tell you what, talk about the ultimate Grossmont Foothillers fan and being a backup catcher for the Hillers himself, he definitely would be talking his Hillers up right now. But yeah, I mean, I know that would be bittersweet to win that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, he would, but he loved all these coaches, especially in the Hills League, Dave. And you won't say it, so I will. I watched your interview with Coach Holland, and I understood exactly what he was saying. He basically was saying that his club, you guys, have come in with a little bit of a summer lag, if you will, playing summer ball, looking forward to, most of the Highlanders moving on in their baseball careers, such as yourself, and almost maybe forgetting about the task at hand. And now that you've had a little bit of lull since that early start, I'm sure that the work has been pretty hard over the last couple of days in preparation for some of these games. So let's cover some of these teams, especially from the Hills League, and talk to Eric about them as well. We talked about the Highlanders. Go ahead and check out our episode where we talked about Helix and some of their great players. Dave, the interesting thing about the Hills League, and we were talking about it with Eric, is the structure, and hats off to the coaches and Brian Wilbur for the format. Listen to how they're doing it this year, Dave. The Grossmont Conference has split the leagues, of course, as they always do, but in the Hills League, we're going to have 4 teams, 4 superpowers, if you will. The Helix Highlanders, the Granite Hills Eagles, the Grossmont Foothillers, and the Santana Sultans. These teams have already taken to beating each other up over the last several years. Eric's been a part of that. Over in the Valley League are the other 7 teams. So they'll play just a home and home over in that league, while there'll be more games played between these competitive teams in the Hills League. Where have you heard that idea, I wonder?
The H12 Prep Baseball Report. Visit the H12 Sports Academy off of Old Highway 80 in El Cajon. Get lessons from top local instructors. Use our team workout and cage facility specials, newly renovated, for baseball and softball. Plus, have your performance metrics analyzed using patented technology in HitTrax. That's the H12 Sports Academy off of Old Highway 80 in El Cajon. Call Scott Hoppy Hopgood at 619-328-1412. That's the H12 Sports Academy.
Several of the matchups will be 3-game sets over in the Hills League. So that's going to create for some exciting weeks, and I think culminate in some of those 3rd-game sets. So very, very interesting format. And the winner of the Hills League will be very deserving of a league championship.
Tournaments within itself, just in the league.
Well, Dave, let's take a look at some of the teams that the Highlanders will contend with, and we'll ask Eric about each and every one of them. 2 of them were in this week's County Top 10, where Helix started the season number 1. Cole kind of dusted that off real fast and said, I don't know what they were thinking, but if you look up and down the Helix lineup, and you'll look at the players to watch that the newspaper had, there were more Highlanders on that list than even Eastlake Titans or Cathedral Catholic Dons and some of the other teams. So that's why we're putting the pressure on these guys. But the 6th-ranked Grossmont Foothillers were 5-3, and they were scheduled to play Eastlake again. But Grossmont's already had 1 loss to the Titans. The Hillers also lost on Friday against Madison in the Grossmont Mesa City tournament, which used to bear your father's name. I hope we can get back to that a little bit. I wanted to mention that. But Dave, senior Max Ford, wow,
Yes.
3 home runs so far, 280 batting average, really a great story. Max has spent, I'd say, a majority of his career injured. And for Max to make it back onto the field for his senior season of baseball right here, right now, I think that it's culminated in this moment for him, and he's ready to have a great season and show everybody what we've missed over the last year in a couple of sports, but also a Hiller sophomore Isaiah Gomez, 385 average so far, and junior Brody Romero's hitting 381. Those guys lead the team in hitting, and they have other top bats too, like Gio Gigante and Brandon Smith. A couple of juniors also hitting well over 300, but most of all, I think you know, Eric, on the mound for the Hillers, what can you say so far about seniors Jack Hyde and Drew Shervanian? Both guys with an ERA well under 1 so far, and they also have sophomore Jaden Wilcox looking like a very promising arm. I'm going to default to Eric on this one, Dave, before I go to you. You have a lot of respect for Hyde. He's going to USD, and he pitched that great game. Came in that great game last year. Came in the championship game and helped the Hillers win the title. And you got to knock them off, brother.
Yeah, Jack's a great kid, and going to USD, I'll be playing him for 4 years. I'm excited about that in the West Coast Conference. But just facing him on next Wednesday, we're all excited. We know what's coming. He's got a great fastball, got a great change, got a great slider. We're really excited to face him. And Max Ford, as you said, he's been on the injured list, but when he's healthy, he's really, really good. And I believe Gio's going to St. Mary's as well. And so I'll be excited to play a couple years with him after being rivals for the past 3 years.
Dave, it's not all about Jack Hyde. Drew Shervanian had that great start. We know he's a great pitcher, and maybe not as overwhelming as Jack, but this has given them a great 1-2 punch.
Yeah, I think Shervanian is going to. I think it's not going to be all Hyde. I think Shervanian is going to. He's not going to be quite as equal, but he's going to be right there. I think that's going to be their 1-2 punch. And when you talk to both of them, they say the same thing in reference to each other, that they're the 1-2 punch for sure. That's going to be quite a rotation, and as you mentioned, the newcomer as well. I mean, that's a pretty good rotation of 3 pitchers.
It's definitely going to be tough facing them, especially in that 3-game series on Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. That's not going to be pretty for us, but we're going to battle through it, and let's get it.
That's going to be some great matchups. Speaking of great matchups, we're going to be matched up also with the Granite Hills Eagles, and whoa, all of a sudden the 7th-ranked Eagles, they're back. They had a 6-game winning streak, although that was snapped yesterday by Cathedral Catholic as the Eagles fell to 6-3. The Eagles will play Saints on Wednesday. Dave, we were going to get the shows together last week. I kind of kicked it to the side, said, we're not winning. East County's not doing too good. But then we got on a roll on the next week. I said, hey, let's get that show going back together again. And Granite Hills, no better reflection of that. They started slow and got hot. They lost to Cathedral, but they've got some great pitching during that 6-game winning streak as junior Clay Fordham picked up his 2nd win of the season on Friday. He lowered his ERA to under 1. And senior Brian Smith has an ERA just over 1.5. He also has a pair of wins. And Noah Ponciano had a strong performance so far as well. Dave, the Eagles have guys hitting over 300 like Jake Fenn, TK Parker, Max Bodke, and Sean McGrew. That's a lot of experience right there.
Yeah, that is experience, but the hot bat really, if you talk to Coach Davis, has been Max Bodke. He said he's really going to be the kid that's going to stand out, and the other one that on the mound that he has said is going to be something special, as I was mentioning to Eric earlier, is Austin Smith, the young kid, and he can hit. He can definitely hit the ball too, because 3 games ago he was 3 for 3 also and won the game. So they definitely got something special going on there. Over again, I mean, he was even referring kind of a Hazelish guy as far as Mr. Smith goes. So I think what he had said earlier in the season about we're still pretty young and the old cliche I was talking to Frank Coit Mount McGill, and he says he always says we're young and we don't have, he plays it off, he goes yeah right, he goes he has guys every year, he'll create guys. And as you know, Frank Coit being a former Granite Hills Eagle himself, he definitely has great things to say about James Davis, and it's a great program as well.
There were some great games with the Eagles last year, and
yeah.
Well, you're going to have to take them on this year. What do you think about the Eagles?
I believe we're ready to go. Coach Davis has a great reputation for coaching and getting his teams ready, but Coach Hahn has done a great job. But with TK Parker, I believe, he's been raking, he's been hitting. We know the Eagles can hit, and since their pitching's coming along, it's going to be a tough matchup for us.
One more team, one more power in the Grossmont Hills League, the Santana Sultans. The Sultans have had some great games so far, like the win over 12th ranked Scripps Ranch behind the pitching of Ben Hart and the hitting of Sean Iverson and Aiden Donovan. And they beat Bonita Vista on a walk-off double by Tyler Glowacki, but the Sultans are off to a 4-3 start. And I will mention, though, one of those losses of the walk-off variety to the East Lake Titans. So Santana plays 2 tournament games with Cathedral this week before heading into league play, Dave. The Sultans.
You know, I'll tell you what, the Sultans, they're another team. I think that a lot of times, similar situation, they'll start off a little slow and, boy, come closer to league play in the end, approaching CIF. That's when they really start winning those games and they start swinging hot bats and pitching really well. And those Glowacki kids, both of them are definitely talented kids, and I think that they're going to be a big part of that success. And as we also discussed before, I mean, when you have a legendary coaching staff with Mark Noble and Vickery and Ledesma, I mean, you got some of the best teachers out there, and you're definitely going to get some winners out of those kids.
Eric, we talk about the Eagles, we talk about the Foothillers. How about some of the games you've had with the Sultans over the last couple of years?
Last year it was just, oh my gosh, just these guys are tough out there. Their coaching staff does a great job preparing them for games. And the Glowacki brothers, Tyler just committed to San Diego State. Congratulations. And just every single bat in their lineup is the tough out. And they're just physically, mentally sound on the game. They play their game the right way. And I think it has a lot to do with their coaching staff.
Dave, maybe the Sultans might be the team that needed the most, I don't know about rebuilding, but add a little bit more personnel. So maybe we're covering them as the 4th team in this race. But anything can happen out there. Your pick so far, though, I think you're staying with your guys, the Eagles, huh?
I think so far, the way that it's shaped up, with the exception of the loss to Cathedral Catholic, and although they were in a shutout and they did put 2 on the board late, I still think, pitching-wise, just overall as a team, I think that they're definitely, at this point in time, they're definitely the favorites. But all 3 behind, including you guys, I think it's going to be a tight race the whole game, or the whole season.
Now, Dave, we're going to go over to the Grossmont Valley League, where a 7-team circuit will play that home and home. Concept sounds familiar, one we talked about right here on the show. Although I will say that this season, I think the Valhalla Norsemen and the Steel Canyon Cougars, I know it's hard to look forward and see which teams are going to be good when they're planning the league, because they got to do it sometimes 1 or 2 years in advance. But I think Valhalla and Steel Canyon, maybe the favorites in this league, would be suited to play in the Hills League this year. I think they're that good, and I think Valhalla's record shows that they could possibly compete in the Hills, and I think for the Cougars, I think their roster right now, their record doesn't show it, but I think that their personnel is strong enough. They have a lot of the guys on that county player to watch list.
Now, in that too, and you're correct for that, and I don't think they're quite ready for this, but and we're going to go more into detail, but let's not forget Craig New and his boys from Bonavista that have been making some noise themselves, and pretty hot streak right now.
Sure, and let's keep them also in contention in this race. We'll start with Valhalla. They're off to the hottest start of any East County team with a 7-2 record. The Norsemen were almost 8-1, but Mira Mesa beat Valhalla 2-1 on Monday night in 8 innings. Senior Ryan O'Sullivan, he has an 0.39 ERA so far, but no wins to show for his 3 starts. He's also batting .407. Joseph Ingracia, who certainly can be included in among the Players of the Year candidates right now in the East County, along with guys like Zoe Richardson. Right now, Ingracia is off to a tremendous start, hitting .467 with 3 triples and 5 stolen bases. He also has a pitching win. He struck out 12 in the loss to Mira Mesa in just 5 2/3 innings. Sophomore Andy Boyd also has a pair of wins on the hill. Valhalla is challenging teams to stop them from running. Dave and also Eric, you're a catcher. 32 stolen bases through 9 games. Kyle Casper, 10 steals, Ryan Perot, Luke Clark, Tyler Hennigy. They're all hitting over 350. Valhalla faces La Jolla and Henry in games this week. Dave?
You know, I think it's a little early, but after I saw them play Foothills Christian just a couple of days ago, which I didn't even think they were going to finish that game because there was a solid amount of rain for the first inning. They were going to probably call that thing off, but it pretty much shut down, and they played the rest of the game. They scored pretty quickly. They were up 6-0. But the Foothills Christian Knights, they did score 6 runs. They made it an 8-6 ball game. However, like you said, they have so many tools in their tool chest that I think Valhalla probably will be. But that's a tough one because Steel Canyon is pretty solid.
I want to give credit to all these coaches, players too, Eric. You guys probably had to work extra hard on these fields, staying after and sanding them up and raking them up. I'm amazed that more games haven't been canceled with the amount of rain. I guarantee you there have been advances because 10 or 20 years ago, as long as I've been watching, I mean, I watched Coach Holland play at Helix. That's how old I am. But the way that they manicure the fields now, they're just doing a lot better job. And amazing, we haven't lost more games with all this rain. Good job to all the coaches and everyone who's helped out. The Steel Canyon Cougars, they're 3-4, following a 6-4 win over University City on Monday. The Cougars returned several top players this season. Billy Tellis already has a pair of home runs. He's probably also among the favorites to win the county, or probably the county home run crown, as well as the East County home run crown. He's hitting .333. Senior Eli Page batting .400. And sophomore Jake Entrican, there's a name for you. Hitting .364 so far, and on the mound, seniors Jack Schlottman, Richie Pedrin have ERAs around 2. Dave, you like the Cougars' chances to challenge for sure?
I do for sure. I think them and Valhalla, it's almost like that. I know they don't have it for baseball, but it's almost like that Hamashaw helmet going. I think they're going to be at each other's throats, and they're equally loaded. I think, and Steel Canyon once again, they're going to be a tough team to beat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're playing Steel Canyon in I believe 2 weeks, and we're circling Billy Tellis and we're circling Aaron Taylor out there, which they have ridiculous athleticism, and just Billy Tellis is on a tear, so we got to watch out for him.
The Bonavista Monarchs are the East County's hottest team right now. Dave, you mentioned it. They had 3 straight wins coming into today's game with the Southwest Raiders, but you have some good news regarding the Monarchs. Apparently, the Monarchs have extended that winning streak to 4 games. So with that win today over Southwest, Abraham Sanchez, the junior, he's leading the East County, entering that game with a .588 batting average, and sophomore Ernie Arambula picking up right where he left off last year with a .458 clip so far, and Derek Wiley also hitting over 300. Senior Sergio Cortez has 6 stolen bases, and Sanchez also getting it done on the mound with an ERA under 1 so far with a win, and sophomore Andrew Savoy, a pair of pitching wins. He's also hitting over 300. How'd it go today with the Monarchs?
Well, you mentioned Savoy, so I'll go right into that. But bottom line, Bonavista won 2-1 today, so it was definitely a pitcher's duel. And you were speaking of Andrew Savoy. He pitched 6.1 innings, 1 run, and no earned runs. And then Andy Canedo got the final 2 outs for his 2nd save of the season. And to add, also Andy Canedo hit a 2-run home run, so that pretty much won the game. So
nice.
heck of a game for Canedo to close it out and to win
What
the
inning,
game with his
what inning
staff.
did he hit that home run in?
He hit that 2 home run. Yeah,
I believe it was
It
early
doesn't
on
say.
in the game. It was early on in the game. He hit a 2-run home run.
And then to close it out too, boy,
Yeah.
he won the game for him.
Yeah, and I mean the guy to look out for is Derek Wiley. He's a hard worker, and we can't forget 3 weeks ago he was playing basketball.
Yeah.
So he didn't get the winter preseason like the rest of us did as players. And so for him to be putting on a mash and hitting tanks, that's something
Talk about
impressive.
an athlete, Wiley. I mean, he plays every sport pretty much.
Yeah, and just what was it, Friday? As a matter of fact, you mentioned him. He broke a 1-1 tie in the bottom of the 6th with 1 out with a single to center, And another name we didn't mention yet, Ramon Varela added a RB8 Granite to cap a 2-run frame. So, and then Abraham Sanchez, of course, got that victory as well.
I think they're on the program on the rise. I think Coach New's doing a great job over there, and I think they could be contending with this Valley League.
Yeah, Sanchez might be my under-the-radar player. I don't think he's under the radar now,
No.
or was he before, but just look at the statistics so far. And as you mentioned, the Monarchs red hot, 4 straight wins. The Mount Miguel Matadors, West Hills Wolfpack, El Capitan Vaqueros, they're all off to 1-win starts, Dave. The Matadors got one of the best pitching performances, however, of the season from sophomore Michael Camacho. Nico's brother had an impressive freshman season, but a complete game shutout of Kearney on March 5th has been the highlight of the season so far for the Matadors. We talked to Michael last year. We interviewed Nico. Nico even said, hey, my brother, he's pretty good, probably going to be better than me. And I don't think that's not far from the case. I mean, Michael is definitely one of the up-and-coming stars right now.
Well, I was fortunate to see Mount Miguel yesterday, and actually quite a bit of rain. It was on and off, and I was surprised they got the game in versus Morse. Got there in the 4th inning, but apparently in the I believe it was the 2nd inning, there was a collision. Cameron and their catcher got into it. Their starting catcher, they collided in center field. Just a bruised sternum though.
Yeah, Cameron was.
And yeah, they had someone else catch. So
Bozek was in center.
yeah, and so it's just a bruised sternum, not a big deal. He said they were checking on him at the end of the game. But you were speaking about Nico and the Camacho brothers, because of the pitch count and because of playing Lincoln and Hoover, as he was talking about, Coach Coy was talking about, he wanted to keep them fresh because he wanted to pitch them against Lincoln, so he held them at 30 pitches each, so they can finish off and put their best guys in it. Because, I mean, Nico is definitely their ace on the hill.
Sure.
He also can be pretty good. He hit some hard balls, but that's been their issue the whole season so far. Is they hit him hard, they hit him far, but they're hitting him right to center field or right to right field. So they're not hitting those gaps. So that's what's been killing the Matadors is they just can't get a break on the. I mean, what more can you ask for as a coach? Though they're hitting them hard, they're not striking out. They're just not hitting those gaps.
And they have that, and they have the pitching, as we could see with that complete game shutout. That's impressive this early on to be able to go out there and throw a complete game shutout with the 100 pitches.
Yeah, and Coach Frank has said he sees nothing wrong in the effort so far. So.
Right.
The West Hills Wolfpack are on a 6-game losing streak. Head coach Mickey Deutschman is back after some hard work in the off season, and we know he's got a lot of heart. Dave, the Wolfpack though off to a bit of a slow start. Andrew Ridiak and the guys, tell me about the Wolfpack.
I think that maybe it does start. You know, we mentioned coaching so much, and I think that Mickey just needs to get into the swing of things too. You know, he's had a rough summer, rough fall as well with his own physical issues, and we wish him all the best. I try to keep in touch with him and Kelly on his health, and he's a heck of a coach though. You know, not only coaching the Wolfpack, but those Stars and what he did this last year with the Stars and taking them as far as he did. But I think West Hills they need a little bit of work. I think that it'll even out though. Same thing. They're starting off slow, but I think that they're going to be right in the middle of the pack.
El Capitan has a new skipper and former Clemson Tiger Jonathan Meyer, who graduated from Cathedral Catholic. He's a pretty great player for the Dons. The Vaqueros earned their first win of the season on Monday with a 5-2 win over the Christian Patriots with 3 runs in the 5th inning, including a 2-run hit from Kevin Allison. Austin Bell pitched a complete game. Sophomore Jake Burgum leads the team with a .400 batting average. And talking about basketball players, junior Jake Fitzner, he's hitting .300 so far. The Vaqueros play Point Loma and Serra in the GMC tournament, GMC Bill Dickens tournament over the next couple of days. Dave, the Vaqueros.
Well, you know, I think with a new skipper in town, I think they're already in a rebuilding process. I think they're still a little young yet, and they're another team. I really don't. I think the jury's not in yet as far as the Vaqueros.
Al's Sports Shop in Santee is your premier sports store for all of San Diego County. From team equipment to letter jackets and awards, Al's is the best in San Diego County. Let Al give you his personal touch on equipment, awards, or any of your sports needs. See you at Al's.
Just a little touch on the El Cajon Valley Braves. They've played 3 games thus far. They earned a tie versus their recent rival Lincoln after the Hornets stung the Braves by double digits. In the season opener, Robert Verdugo had 4 hits, scored 3 times, and pitched 6 innings, and our buddy Greg Sanchez drove in a couple of runs in the tie game. So.
And while we were talking about that game with the Patriots, why don't we just real quick go over the Patriots and also the health of head coach Mike Mitchell, as he had actually been sidelined for a couple of days, and for that game, I talked to him today. He just came home. I guess he had some sort of infection in that knee that he had hurt last year.
Yeah.
So the infection landed him in the hospital. Nothing too alarming for a couple of days, but he did get out today. He's in good spirits and he's ready to get back into the dugout and coach his team. Didn't get really the details on that game, as Brian was obviously more concerned with his father. But we're just happy that Coach Mitchell is in good shape, coming home and ready to coach his Patriots.
Junior Michael Pohl, sophomore Carson Stroman lead the team. Both guys hitting around 400, and junior Alex Markowitz has an ERA of around 2, and junior Caleb Leonard has an ERA of about 1 over 5 relief appearances. Could we see Caleb entering the rotation?
I believe so, and there's been talk about it that Mike's been considering that. I think really what has happened with Christian, they already play a lot of tough teams, but they lost some of their key players. Trent Nielsen, I guess due to a parent moving closer to Carlsbad, ended up over at Carlsbad High. So losing Trent Nielsen was that really hurt the Christian Patriots. And then they lost a couple, of course, to graduation, and so losing those seniors and losing a player like Nielsen, that was one of their big bats. They're very young. A lot of them, according to Coach Mitchell, are still learning some of the fundamentals. So for their record, I'm actually impressed with how young they are and inexperienced. But as you mentioned, Alex Markowitz has been phenomenal, not only on the hill, but he's also been swinging the bat as well. And that has been the key thing, is they've been hitting a lot of pop-ups, a lot of strikeouts, so it's been quite frustrating for the skipper. And he said, if we can just play small ball, get a couple people on base, and get him in scoring position, you know all about that right now. They can pitch. So they got a kind of a similar situation, but the Patriots, I think, as they go through the season and they learn some more, I think that they're going to improve.
The Foothills Christian Knights have just 2 wins so far, usually a fast-starting team over the years that you've been covering them, Dave, but they seem to have a veteran roster we're all familiar with, so they've given up some runs so far, 6.5 ERA, it looks like is what they'll have to fix, because the offense seems to be doing just fine. Corbin Harris leads the team in hitting with a .462 average, while Jack Wirtz, Cade Cabral, and Kip Familaro all hitting over 300.
Yeah, and that has been the thing, is Kip was pitching so great last year. He's got roughed up, but it's also because it's been put on his shoulders to shoulder some of the pitching. And even this year, our buddy that we had on the first show, which he changed his name, formerly Mr. Seaweed Brown. We're talking about Jelani Brown. It turned into Jelani Hollywood Brown. They changed his name. But he's even come in as a relief pitcher, starting pitcher, and has pitched pretty well. But I think it really hurt them when they lost. Trevor Smallwood was just one of the best pitchers in the county last year. So losing him, that really hurt. So like you said, they need to clean up the pitching. They got plenty of hitting. Like you said, Flamero, Jelani's been hitting great. And then Jack Wirtz, Corbin Harris. I really don't have an answer for them right now. Because they don't, even the game against Valhalla, they didn't look bad out there. They just weren't coming up with enough.
Dave, don't forget about the Mountain Empire Redhawks and senior Trevor Elliott. Elliott's off to a great start. He pitched a one-hitter against Liberty Charter with 17 strikeouts and a 9-1 victory. That was the single best single-game performance in the county in 4 years. He also had a pair of triples and drove in 3. 17 Ks, Dave.
Yeah, Trevor Elliott was phenomenal last year too, and I think this kid, and talking with the family, they went to school there, so they wanted to keep the tradition going and have him playing at a school. I mean, it is a D5 program. We all know that he would do just as well in a D1 program, even better, and he would be more recognized. And the thing that's been hurting them over there as well, talking with his parents, talking with Coach Chris Pullen, the issue is they haven't got to get more than 2 games worth of stats. So scouts are coming out and they're all looking at him, but how can he get stats out of 2 games? I mean, although we had that one great performance, teams haven't been showing up to play the Redhawks, and then of course they called off several games for weather purposes, and we also know they're a little further east, so they get the weather a little worse than we do out here. So we're just hoping for more games to be played, and more games especially for Trevor to pitch in. And I think the Redhawks will win quite a few games just with Trevor alone.
I wouldn't sweat it. If you could play, they'll find you. So.
Yeah.
All right, one last team I just want to touch on. Liberty Charter, they're off to a 1-4-1 start. We talked about the game against Elliott, but I want to mention a couple of freshmen that have the team's only home runs, Isaiah Hilke and Michael Shalek. All right, well, that's going to do it for us on the H12 Prep Baseball Report. For Dave Dickens and our guest analyst, Eric Smelko of the Helix Highlanders, I'm Ramon Scott. Thank you for joining us.